Okay, hello ladies and gentlemen, Forrest over here, and welcome back to another reading live stream. We are continuing with Loveless. Alright, so we are going to be continuing with Loveless, reading page 72 all the way up to 103. So, because that was the initial plan for part 2, is to read up to page 103, but then I got tired at one point when I last read it, so I just decided to end it there and then continue with that at a later point in time. So that's what we're doing. So, without further ado, let's begin. High standards. So you have very high standards, Rooney said to me the next morning while I was eating a bagel in bed and she was doing her makeup in front of her mirror. We would have talked about it last night, but I fell asleep in the middle of reading a Steve slash Bucky Regency era AU fic, only to wake up a few hours later to find Rooney returned, fast asleep, her makeup still on and her boots discarded in the middle of the aqua rug. That's accurate, I confirmed. I did have high standards. I wasn't sure what exactly my standards were, but they were undoubtedly very high. Don't worry, she said, seemingly unfazed. We've got loads more chances to find you someone. It won't be that hard. Won't it? Nope. Her mouth dropped open as she did her mascara. Loads of people are looking to hook up this week. There are so many opportunities for you to meet people. It won't take us that long to find you someone you like. Okay. You'll see. Okay. What's your type? Rooney asked at lunch. Lunch at college was just like lunch at school. Cafeteria food and sitting round tables and benches. But 10 times worse due to the added pressure of socializing with a bunch of people I didn't know very well. As irritating as I found Rooney's effortless ability to thrive at university, I was actually very glad to have her in situations like this. Thankfully, however, this was the first meal that Rooney and I had shown up to, in which we didn't spot anyone Rooney knew, so we were able to sit just us. Type? I asked, my mind immediately going to Pokemon types, and then wondering whether it was a food question of some sort, and looked down at my pasta. Type of guy, Rooney said, mouth full. So be more like, type of guy. Anyway. Oh, I shrugged and peered and spared a piece of pasta. I don't really know. Come on, you must have some idea. Like, what sort of guys do you find yourself liking? None of them is what I would probably should have said. I never like anyone. No type in particular is what I actually said. Tall, nerdy, sporty, musicians, tattoos, long hair, boys who like pirates. I don't know. Hmm. Rudy chewed slowly, looking at me. Girls? What? Do you prefer girls? Um, I blinked. Well, I don't think so. Not really. Hmm. What? It's just interesting. What is? Rudy swallowed, smirking. You, I guess. I was about 80% sure she was using interesting as a synonym for weird, but oh well. Oh well. I had an idea, Rooney said to me in a very earnest tone that evening. I would have taken her seriously were she not dressed as a sexy fried egg in preparation for the St. John's College costume party. This comprised a body piece in the shape of a fried egg, but with thigh-high socks and giant heels. I was actually quite impressed. It was an incredible way to say, I want to look good, but also let you know that I have a sense of humor. An idea? Except for my Friday body piece was literally pushing my torso. I said, which wasn't obviously a lie. I was extremely hot on her phone. I looked at the phone. I'd never met anyone our age who used a dating app. I hesitated. Do people our age use dating apps? I don't really think Tinder is for me. But how will you know if you don't try? This is just an idea, but Tinder is a really good way to just have a look at what guys are actually out there, like in the vicinity. You don't actually have to talk to them, but like, it might at least help you get an idea of what sort of guy you want to go for. She opened Tinder on her phone and immediately showed me a picture of the first guy who popped up. Kieran, 21, student. I looked at Kieran. He looked a bit like he looked a bit like a tall rat, which which that sort of look doesn't for some people. I don't think this is my thing, I said. Rudy rolled off my bed with a sigh, her rain costume nearly knocking over the glass of water on my bedside table. It's just an idea. Do it if you get bored tonight. She walked over to her own bed and grabbed her bag. Swipe left is no, swipe right is yes. I don't think it's just an idea. You don't have to, like, love them, but just look out for anyone you see who you wouldn't mind finding out more about. And then she was out the door. I was half an hour in and about time when I picked up my phone and downloaded Tinder. I definitely wasn't going to talk to anyone. I was just curious. I just wanted to know if I would ever see a guy and think, yeah, he's hot. So I made a Tinder profile. I picked 5 of my best selfies from Instagram and spent another half an hour trying to think what to write in my About section before settling on cheesy rom-com connoisseur. The first guy who popped up was Miles, 20, student. He had brown hair and a leer. In one picture he was playing snooker. I got a bad vibe and swiped left. The second guy was Adrian, 19, student. His bio said he was an adrenaline junkie who was looking for his manic pixie dream girl, which got an instant swipe left. I swiped left on 4 more guys and realized that I wasn't even looking at them properly. I was just reading the bios and making an assessment as to whether I thought we'd get on. That wasn't the point. I was supposed to be finding someone I was physically attracted to. So after that, I tried to properly focus on their appearances, their faces, their eyes, their mouths, their hair, their style. These were the things. These are the things you were supposed to like. What did I like? What was my standard? What were my preferences? After 10 minutes of this, I stumbled upon a guy who looked like a model. So I was unsurprised when I looked at his info and read Jack 18 model. He had a sharp-cut jawline and a symmetrical face. His main photo was clearly from a magazine advert he'd done. I tried to picture myself dating Jack, 18, model, kissing him, having sex. Like, if it was going to be anyone based on appearance alone, surely it would be Jack, 18, model, with his cool denim jacket and dimples. Imagine kissing that face. Imagine him leaning in. Imagine his skin near you. My thumb hovered over the screen for a moment, trying to ignore the nauseated feeling in my stomach at the pictures I was conjuring in my head. Then I swiped left. At least you gave it some thought on that one, you know. Can't fault her for that. Georgia War. Hello, Fried Egg, I have an update. I swiped left on all of them, lol. Rooney Bach. What do you mean all of them? Georgia War. Just all the ones I looked at. Rooney Bush. And how many was that? Georgia War. I don't know, like 40? Tinder isn't for me, I think. Lol. Sorry to disappoint. Rooney balked. I'm not disappointed. Haha, I just hoped it would help. 40? Wow! Okay. Georgia wore. So that's a light to swipe left on? Rooney balked. You really do have high standards. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but at least we've got that sussed. We've got that sussed. Georgia wore. So what do I do now? Rooney balked. Why not to go back to good old-fashioned meeting people in real life? Georgia wore. Ew. Hate that for me. I deleted Tinder from my phone, then hit play on About Time again, wondering why picturing myself in any sort of romantic or sexual situation made me feel like I was going to vom and or run a mile, while romance in movies felt like the sole purpose of being alive. Excuse me. Pride. Rooney was right about one thing. Meeting people in real life was probably the only way this was going to work for me. Fortunately, it was Freshers Week, and I still had many opportunities to meet people, which continued on the Friday when Rooney and I went to the Freshers Fair. I'm going to join so many societies, Rooney said, and I didn't take her that seriously. But when we went round all of the stalls in the student union building, she collected so many flyers that she made me start carrying some of them for her. I'd arranged to meet Pip and Jason there too, but wasn't sure where to find them because the student union building was huge. They'd have to wait. The most important talk at hand was joining university societies. Alongside clubbing, which I had epically failed at, societies were a staple of university life and supposedly one of the easiest ways to make friends with like-minded people. But as we walked around the stalls, I started to feel nervous, maybe a little overwhelmed. I tentatively signed up to English Soc with Rooney, but apart from that, could barely even remember what I was interested in. Creative writing Soc? Soch? I didn't really enjoy writing that much. The few occasions I tried writing my own fanfic were disastrous. Film Soch? I could just watch movies in bed. There were even super niche things like anime Soch, Quidditch Soch, and snowboarding Soch, but they all seemed like they catered for a specific group of friends who just wanted an excuse to hang out and do their favorite hobby together. I didn't know what my hobbies were anymore, except yearning for romance and reading fanfiction. In fact, the only other society I wanted to join was the Durham Student Theater. I could see its giant stall at the end of the hall. I'd definitely meet new people if I was in a play this year. Rooney ended up walking on ahead, excited to chat with all the people in the stalls. I ambled along, feeling increasingly like I just didn't really fit anywhere, until I realized I'd reached the stall of Durham's Pride Society. It stood out boldly with a giant rainbow flag behind it, and had quite a sizable gathering of freshers standing near it, chatting excitedly to the older students behind the table. I picked up one of their leaflets to have a look. Most of the front page was decorated with some of the identities that supported in any font, in arty fonts. The ones I knew well were at the top: lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and then, to my surprise, it moved into one I'd only heard about on the internet: pansexual, asexual, asexual, aromantic, non-binary, and more. I didn't even know what some of those meant. Okay, let me explain this, okay? I want to try to explain this in the most kid-friendly way possible. So, you know about lesbians. They are women who are like other women. Um, you have gays, who are basically men who like other men. Bisexuals are people who like both men and women. Basically, they don't have a preference in that situation, but they are willing to take one or the other if they have that option open to them. Transgender, which are basically people who were born as one gender but felt like they are a whole the other gender. And this can happen. I mean, dude, I have a book dude, we got a book right here. This book right here. The main character is a transgender male character. And on top of that, you got these guys right here that are two men who may have feelings for, who are starting to have feelings for each other, but they're still trying to figure out how they feel about how they feel about each other in that regard. Then, of course, you have this other book, which I think is going to be relatable to so many other people when we get to it. But it's about a young man who goes through a hospital slash psychiatric ward, who is basically discovering himself in more ways than just your average ordinary than your average ordinary well, he's in this building, he needs help. No, he's discovering more about himself than just that. On top of that, you also have these other names here that we talked about. We have pansexual. Um, I'm not entirely sure on that one. I've heard of it myself, but from what I've seen from other people, is basically where they are open to having more than one relationship or something. Somebody can look this up on Urban Dictionary. I'm sure of it. So maybe somebody can do that and tell me what the actual definition is. But keep it kid friendly for all the kids who are watching me reading this PG-13 book. Anyway, you have asexual and aromantic. They both are roughly the same thing, actually. Asexual is basically somebody who has little to no sexual feelings towards another human being, and aromantic is basically somebody who has little to no romantic feeling toward toward any other individual. I know this because I know that one person, aka Jane Animations, who came out and say she was aromantic and asexual, even though she said that wasn't her coming out, but she did say that she was asexual and aromantic, which should be respected. On top of that, you have non-binary, which is somebody who is basically more of a they/them. They don't consider themselves male and they don't consider themselves female. They are literally in the middle of the pack, so to speak. I guess we could say it that way. But yeah, that's basically what those all mean, to my knowledge and recollection. I could be wrong to any of them, but it is what I think it is. That's what I think they mean. Anyway, college child? Said a voice, and I looked up and was faced with Sunil Jia, my college parent. On his woolly jumper, he was wearing all his pins again, and he was smiling warmly at me. He was definitely the nicest person I'd met at Durham so far, not counting Rooney. Could he be my friend? Did college parents count as friends? Interested in signing up? He asked. I said. To be honest, I didn't really want to join. What right did I have to join a society like this? I mean, to be fair, I didn't really know what I was. And yes, sure, I had considered the possibility that I was not into guys. Strongly considered. Then again, I didn't really seem to like girls either. I didn't seem to like anyone. I hadn't met anyone I liked yet, felt the nice stomach of butterflies, and been able to proudly declare, "Aha! Of course! This is the gender that I like." I didn't even have a particular gender preference when it came to smutty fanfiction. Sunil held out a clipboard and pen. Write down your email. Just put you on our mailing list. There wasn't any way to say no, so I mumbled an okay and wrote down my email address. Immediately felt like a fraud. It's Georgia, isn't it? Asked Sunil while I was writing. Yeah, I stammered, honestly taken aback that he remembered my name. Sunil nodded approvingly. Sweet, I'm the Pride rep at John's. Another girl behind the stall leaned down over us and added, and Sunil's the president of Pride Soch. Always forgets to mention that because of modesty or something. Sunil laughed gently. He definitely gave off an air of modesty, but self-confidence too. And he was very good at his job. Didn't want to boast about it. This is Jess, one of the vice presidents, he said. And this is Georgia, one of my college children. I looked at the third-year girl. She had hip-hop linked braids, a big smile, and was wearing a colorful dress that had lollipops on it. She had a little badge that said, she, her, on it. Ah, she said. This is your college child? Sunil nodded. They sure are. Jess clapped her hands together. And you're joining Pride Soch. This was actually meant to be. I forced a smile. Anyway, said Sunil, shaking his head at her with a sort of fondness. We're here for any freshers who want to get involved in queer stuff like at Durham, basically. Club nights, meetups, formals, film nights, stuff like that. It should be duly noted that in this situation, because I do have another book from like the old day, from like the old, many, like we're talking like 1900s type, like early 1900s type of book. I got a book here that uses queer in a way that's not the same as this one. In that book, queer is meant to be, no, is meant as weird, not in any way to do with this. Okay. But in this situation, queer, I guess, is like part derogatory, part not, I'm guessing. I don't know, but yeah, that's what we got going on there. Cool, I said, trying to sound enthusiastic. Maybe I should try and get involved. Maybe I can go to the Pride Society, see a girl, have a big lesbian awakening, and finally feel some romantic feelings for another human being. I was sure I had read a fanfic with that exact plot. I handed the clipboard back. Our welcome gathering is happening in a couple of weeks, said Sunil with a smile. Maybe we'll see you there? I nodded, feeling a little bit embarrassed, like I'd been exposed somehow, which was dumb, because there was really nothing interesting about me to expose, and I already knew that I wasn't going to go to any of Sunil's Pride social events. She says that doesn't mean she ultimately will not. Let me get my TV here. My TV's acting up a little bit here. There we go. Leave my TV remote here just in case it tries to do something to me. Putting yourself out there. Our final stop at the Freshers' Fair was Durham Student Theater, which had the largest stall in the entire student union, and Pip and Jason were standing right in front of it. Rudy had already stormed ahead to the stall, which was decorated with a big red curtain and papier-mâché comedy tragedy masks. The DST seemed to be a sort of umbrella organization that supported and funded lots of smaller theater groups. The Musical Theater Soch, the Opera Soch, the Freshers Drama Soch, Student Comedy, and more. The students behind the stall, even from afar, all seemed loud and confident. It had none of the calming vibes of the Pride Soch stall, but that didn't put me off. Theater was something familiar. It had been a part of my life for over 7 years, and despite my stage fright, I didn't want to give it up. Plus, Pip and Jason would be doing it with me, so I'd be okay. Pip? Jason? The heads turned to reveal a confused-looking Pip Quintana, holding a flyer and pushing her tortoiseshell glasses up to her nose, and it definitely hung over Jason Farley Shaw, who had bags under his eyes and looked like he was trying to burrow and make a nest inside his teddy bear jacket. Georgia! Pip shrieked, running up to me and bundling me into a hug. I hugged her back until she stepped away. She was smiling wide. So little had changed. She was still Pip, her dark hair fluffed up in different directions, and drowning in an oversized sweatshirt. But of course, we'd only been in Durham for 5 days. It already felt like a lifetime, like I was already a different person. Hey, said Jason. His voice sounded gravelly. You okay? I asked him. He made a grunting noise and pulled his jacket around him. Hungover. and we couldn't find you. Check your phone. I quickly glanced at the screen. There were several unwritten messages in the group chat asking where I was. Pip folded her arms and gave me a discerning look. I assumed you haven't been checking your phone because you've been really busy putting yourself out there and joining loads of societies? Um, I tried not to look too guilty. I joined English Soc. I didn't confess to Pip that I had signed up for the Pride Social's mailing list, probably because I didn't feel like I actually belonged there. Pip made a face. Georgia, that's one society. I shrugged. I could join some later. Georgia, what have you joined? She counted them on her fingers. I've joined Durham Student Theater, obviously, and also Science Soc, Latin American Soc, Pride Soc, Chess, Ultimate Frisbee, and I think I signed up for, like, Quidditch? Of course, Pip had joined Pride Soc too. I wonder what she'd say if I randomly showed up to a Pride Soc event. Quidditch? I asked. Yeah, and if the brooms didn't actually fly, we're gonna be really fucking disappointed. Damn. We? I looked at Jason. You also joined Quidditch? You don't even like Harry Potter. Jason nodded. The Quidditch president was incredibly persuasive. What else did you join? DST, History Soc, Film Soc, and Rowing. Wait, what else did you join? DST, History Soc, Film Soc, and Rowing. I frowned. Rowing? Jason shrugged. Loads of people are doing it, so I thought I'd give it a go. He stopped speaking abruptly, peering past my shoulder. What is Rooney doing? I turned. Rooney seemed to be having a heated conversation with the girl behind the stall. I don't understand, Rooney was saying. What do you mean it closed? The girl behind the stall looked a little desperate. I think they didn't have any members in second or first year, so when the third years left, it just disappeared. And I can't start it up again? Um, I don't know. I don't really know how it works. Are you the president? Can I talk to the president? Um, no, she's not here. Oh, never mind. I'll sort this out another time. Rooney stormed towards us, eyes filled with fire. Out of sheer instinct, I cowered backwards. Can you believe, she said, the Shakespeare Society is just fucking gone? Like, that was the one society I really wanted to join, and now it's just... She stopped, realizing that Pip and Jason were standing next to me, staring at Rooney with what could only be described as fascination. Oh, hello. All right, said Pip. Hi, said Jason. How's Roderick? Said Pip. Rooney's mouth twitched with amusement. I like that your mind immediately went to my houseplant rather than asking how I am. I care about plant welfare, Pip replied. I noticed the cooler tone of her voice immediately. Gone was the flustered way she'd babbled around Rooney back in our bedroom. She wasn't blushing and adjusting her hair anymore. After what she'd seen in our kitchen, Pip was on the defensive now. It made me feel sad, but this was what Pip did when she got a crush on someone who couldn't like her back. She shut down the feelings with sheer willpower. It protected her. Are you going to call plant social services on me? Said Rooney, smiling cheekily. She seemed to be immensely enjoying having someone to banter with, and there was a welcome break from having to be peppy and polite. Pip tilted her head. Maybe I am planning social services, and I'm just in disguise. It's not a very good disguise. You look exactly like the sort of person who's got at least 6 cactuses on your bookcase. This seemed to be the last straw for Pip because she snapped back. I only have 3 actually, and it's cacti, not cactuses. The two girls were interrupted by Jason, who, If he had not been a headache before, definitely had one now. So are you actually gonna sign up for DST, or... Yes, I said immediately, if only to end whatever weirdly aggressive verbal sparring was occurring between Pip and Rooney. I don't even know what the point is anymore, said Rooney with a dramatic sigh. Shakespeare Search doesn't even exist. Something about it running out of members. Can't you just join something else? Said Pip, but Rooney looked at her like she'd suggested something infinitely idiotic. Jason hadn't even bothered to stay involved in this conversation and had walked over to the DST mailing list. I followed him and he handed me the pen. I didn't think you'd want to join DST, he said. After all the throwing up during Les Mis. I still love theater, I said, and I need to join more than just the English Soc. But you could pick something that didn't make you throw up. I'd rather throw up surrounded by friends than join a society alone and be sad. Jason paused and said, I think that sounded more profound in your head than it did in real life. I finished writing my email address and put the pen down, glancing up at Jason. He did genuinely seem a bit concerned about me. I want to do this, I said. I really want to try and, meet new people and have a good university experience. Jason paused again. Then he nodded, face full of understanding. Yeah, that makes sense. They stepped aside to let Pip and Rooney write down their emails on the list, all while they're having some sort of inane argument about which DST society they should join, and each of them seemed determined to establish that their choice was the correct choice, and the other person's choice was utterly wrong. After several minutes of this, Jason eventually decided to end it by suggesting we all go to get pizza from the Domino's stand, which was giving out free slices. I'm gonna carry on and look around for a bit, said Rooney. She moved her gaze from Pip to me. Meet you at the entrance in like 20 minutes? I nodded. Fab. Rooney looked back at Pip again as if Jason didn't even exist. How about we all meet up at John's bar tonight? It's so fun down there. It's this tiny little basement bar. Most people would not have been able to tell what was up with Pip, but I'd known her for over 7 years, and she had this look. A slight narrowing of the eyes, her shoulders hunched. The fact of the matter was, Pip had decided to hate Rooney. Yeah, we'll be there, said Pip, folding her arms. Yay, said Rooney, smiling wide. Can't wait. Rooney wandered off into the mass of stalls again. Pip, Jason, and I headed toward the Domino's stand, Pip's eyes never leaving the back of Rooney's head, and Jason asking Pip, What the fuck was that? Shakespeare and houseplants. A bonding opportunity for my only 3 friends was definitely a good idea. The bonding of Shakespeare and houseplants. I just want to make sure, always make sure you know what you're saying before you read on and forget where you're at, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, for the 3rd time with the title, Shakespeare and houseplants. A bonding opportunity for my only 3 friends, and was definitely a good idea. But this was somewhat counteracted by the fact that Rooney seemed to delight in irritating Pip, while Pip seemed to be infuriated by her mere existence in all of our lives, and I had already discovered that I was not a fan of clubs and bars. Philippa Quintana. The vibes, Georgia, the vibes! Georgia War. What of them? Philippa Quintana. They are bad! I should have seen her when we met. She's full of bad vibes. Georgia War. Rooney's actually quite nice. Are you just saying this because you saw her hooking up with someone? No slut shaming is allowed in this group chat. Philippa Quintana. Obviously not! She can hook up with whoever she likes, however much she wants. I have no problems with people who enjoy casual hooking up. I'm just getting a bad vibe. She made fun of my cacti. Jason Farley Shaw. You're on the news. Where are we meeting and what time? I don't know where John's bar is. Georgia War. I'll come pick you both up from Pip's room. I'm concerned about Pip arriving by herself and making a scene. As soon as she sees Rooney. Jason Farley Shaw. Oh, that's good thinking, smart. Good thinking. Smart. Thumbs up. Philip Aquadonna. Fuck you both! Gotta poke fun at friends sometimes, that's just how it be, right? I'm perfectly capable of going to the bar and not making a scene just because I don't like one person, said Pip as she opened her door to me later that evening. I've been given specific directions, but still ended up having to call her and be verbally directed around the winding corridors of Castile. And if that wasn't enough chaos to deal with on a Friday evening, Pip's bedroom was in definite competition for messiest bedroom in Durham. There were more clothes on the floor than appeared to be in her open wardrobe. Her desk was piled high with incredibly boring-looking science books and pieces of paper, and her bed sheets were smashed into a corner, several feet away from her bed. Sure you are, I said, patting Pip on the head. Don't patronize me, Georgia War. Did you bring my denim jacket? Your denim jacket? I smacked my head. I could picture exactly where Pip's jacket was in my room. On the back of my desk chair. Oh no, sorry, I totally forgot. Don't worry, said Pip, but she glanced down at her outfit nervously. I was gonna wear it tonight, but do you think I look okay without it? Or maybe I should wear a bomber jacket. She looked really good, actually. She was wearing a stripy, short-sleeved shirt tucked in at the hips into a pair of ripped black skinny jeans, and her hair was carefully styled. And she looked very much like herself, which, which I thought was more important. Pip had always been kind of insecure about how she looked, but now that she was actually dressing how she'd always wanted to dress, and had cut her hair and all that, she exuded a sort of confidence that I could never hope to achieve. A confidence that said, I knew exactly who I am. You look really nice, I said. She smiled. Thanks. I decided to wear something slightly more casual than my last attempt at going out. Some high-waisted jeans and a tight-fit crop top. But I still felt like I was a little like I was wearing a costume. My usual comfy knitwear style wasn't really suitable for bars and clubs. Jason arrived minutes later, wearing his teddy bear jacket on top of his standard t-shirt jeans combo. He took one look at the floor and immediately started picking up items of clothing and folding them. Jesus fucking Christ, Pip, learn to tidy. It's absolutely fine how it is. I know where everything is. Maybe so, but it won't be absolutely fine when you start getting spiders birthing underneath your sweatshirts. Ew, Jason, don't say birthing. We did a quick tidy of Pip's room before leaving. It was only a few minutes' walk from Castle to St. John's. We had across Palace Green, past the cathedral, and down a little side street. And in that time, I decided to confront Pip about the exact reason for a declaration of bad vibes. I don't have a crush on her, said Pip instantly, which confirmed the fact that she definitely had a crush on Rooney. I don't get crushes on straight girls anymore. So you're deciding that she's your mortal enemy because you know what it is? Pip folded her arms, pulling her bomber jacket round her. She's the sort of person who just thinks she's better than everyone, purely because she goes to clubs and bars and she has a giant house plan and she likes Shakespeare. You like Shakespeare and you have house plans. Wait, you have Shakespeare and you have house plans, said Jason. Why is she not allowed to like Shakespeare and house plans? Pip just gave him an irritated look. Jason glanced at me, eyebrows raised. We could both tell that Pip was making up silly reasons to dislike Rooney in an attempt to deflect her feelings. but we also knew we should probably just let it happen, because, in all honesty, it was probably the best course of action. We'd seen Pip through several straight girl crushes. They were not fun for her. The sooner she got over those feelings, the better. You could have just said no to hanging out tonight, I pointed out. No, I couldn't, said Pip, because then she'd win. Jason and I stayed silent for a moment. Then I said, she's been giving me some advice about stuff. Pip frowned. Advice? About what? Well, I was feeling kind of bad about, like, God. This stuff was always so awkward to talk about. You remember at the prom after party I was feeling really down about not having kissed anyone, and, you know, Rudy's been helping me try and put myself out there a bit. Pip and Jason stared at me. What? Pip shook her head in disbelief. You don't. Why is she making you do that? You don't have to do that shit. Just. God! You need to just go at your own pace, man. Why is she making you. What? Is she trying to persuade you to start getting with people at bars? That's fine if she wants to do that, but that's not who you are. She's not making me do anything. She's just helping me open up to people a bit and, like, take chances. But you shouldn't have to force this stuff. That's not who you are, she repeated, frowning. Well, what if that's who I want to be? I snapped back. I felt immediately bad about it. Pip and I never argued. Pip shut her mouth. She didn't seem to have an answer for that. Eventually, she said, I don't like Rooney because she's disrupting the dynamics of our friendship group, and she's very annoying to me, specifically. I didn't even bother to answer her. Jason was finding his hair awkwardly. It's good that you made a friend, though, Georgia. Yeah, I said. I felt my phone buzz in my hand and withdrew it to take a look. Rudy balked. I'm at the bar! Hey, maybe we could hook you up with someone tonight. I sent her a thumbs up emoji. Just making sure my things all straightened up. My book cover's all straightened up here. Chaotic energy. Rudy had managed to bagsy an entire table for us at John's bar, which deserved a medal because it was heaving. The bar was a tiny basement area in college, super old and very hot. I could practically feel people's sweat in the air as we squeezed through the crowd to get to the table. Rudy had dressed up for the night. Jumpsuit, heels, hair curled into loose waves. She probably had other plans after hanging out with us at the very childish hour of 9 p.m. And while she had been waiting for us, she seemed to have befriended a large group of people sitting at the next table. Darlings, said Rudy in a faint posh drawl. Darlings, said Rudy in a faint posh drawl as we all sat down, turning away from her new friends. You all look so nice. She looked arrogantly at Pip. So stripes on your thing, Philippa? Pip narrowed her eyes at the use of her unshortened name. Have you been Facebook stalking me? Instagram, actually. I enjoyed the photo of you dressed up as a crayon for Halloween. They earned a smug smile from Pip. You scrolled very far back then. We had to suffer several minutes of irritating banter between Pip and Rudy before Jason and I could even contribute to the conversation. In that time, I did some people watching, looking around the room at our fellow students. There were people on a regular night out, some dressed up and others just in their college sweatshirts and jeans. There were people in fancy dress, a lot actually, but it was still fresh as wheat, so that made sense. So how did you all become friends? Asked Rooney. School, I said, and we all went to the same youth theater group. Oh my God, that's right. You're all theater kids. I forgot. Rudy's face lit up. This is amazing. We can all go to the welcome meeting together next week. It's not a bunch of society getting shut down, Jason said. Yeah, Shakespeare's Soch. I was so set on joining it, but it just doesn't exist anymore. Sure, that's some sort of crime against Britain. So you like Shakespeare? Asked Pip. She sounded skeptical, almost. Rooney nodded. Yeah, love it! Do you? Pip nodded back. Yeah, I've been in a few at school. Same. I was in Romeo and Juliet, Much Ado, Comedy of Errors, and Hamlet at school. We did Romeo and Juliet, Midsummer Night's Dream, and The Tempest. So I have more experience? Rudy said, and the curl of her lips was unmissable. It was like she was starting a fight. Pip's jaw twitched. I guess, she said. I caught eyes with Jason over the table, and the way his eyes widened told me that I wasn't imagining this. Jason could tell what was going on, too. Here they were, Rudy and Pip, two very different sorts of chaotic energy colliding before my very eyes. I felt overwhelmed. So are you and Georgia, like, best friends now? I asked Pip with a weak chuckle. I was about to protest being dragged into whatever this was, when Rudy had replied instead. I'd say we're pretty good friends already, said Rudy, smiling, looking at me. Right? Right, I said, because there was really nothing else I could have said. We do live together, Rudy continued. So yes. Why? Jealous? Pip went a little red. I was just wondering whether we'd have to fight for the title of George's ultimate best friend. Am I not even a contender? Jason pointed out, but both the girls ignored him. Rudy took a long sip of her beer, then leaned closer to Pip. You don't strike me as much of a fighter. Is that a dig at my height? Just saying. I think you might be naturally at a disadvantage compared to most people. Ah, but I have the short person anger advantage. Rudy smirked. Can't relate. Hey, I said loudly, and Pip and Rudy both looked at me. We're supposed to be having fun and getting to know each other. They blinked at me. Isn't that what we're doing? Rudy said. I need a drink, Jason said loudly. Standing up, I stood with him, giving him a supportive squeeze on the arm. We left Rudy and Pip to their bizarre banter competition. I knew that relying on alcohol to relieve anxiety was not great. On a physical level, I didn't even enjoy the taste that much. Unfortunately, I had grown up in a place where everyone my age drank, and I had accepted drinking as normal, like a lot of other things, even though often it wasn't really what I wanted to do at all. Jason ordered a cider, and I ordered a double vodka and lemonade, and also 2 beers from Pip and Rooney. I know she's done the whole deflecting feelings by being angry thing before, said Jason grimly as we waited at the bar for our drinks. But I haven't seen her like this since Kelly Thornton in year 10. This is definitely new, I said, thinking back to the time with Kelly, a lengthy feud over a stolen pencil, which had ended in Pip throwing a half-eaten apple at her head, including 2 weeks of detention. I just want everyone to be friends. Jason chuckled and nudged me with a shoulder. You got me. We're relatively drama-free. I looked up at Jason. His big brown eyes and soft smile were so familiar to me. We'd never had any drama. So far, anyway. Yep, yes, I said. Relatively. Forever alone. I proceeded to get drunk in record time. Maybe because I'd skipped dinner in favor of reading fanfic and eating a bagel in bed, or maybe because I drank the equivalent of 6 shots in 45 minutes. But whatever it was, by 10 o'clock, I felt genuinely relaxed and happy, which was definitely a sign that I was not in my right mind. To reiterate, I'm not advocating this sort of thing, but at the time I didn't know how else to deal with what a long, stressful week it had been, and the prospect of many more long, stressful weeks that had to come over the next 3 years. I suppose it's fair to say I was not enjoying my university experience thus far. We headed into a town at around 10 o'clock. Rudy was insistent. I would have protested, but I didn't want to see if clubbing was any better if you went with your friends. Maybe I would enjoy it if Pip and Jason were there. Pip and Rudy were both at least a bit tipsy and had been dominating around 80% of the conversation. Jason had been kind of quiet, which wasn't unusual, and he didn't seem to mind when I slotted my arm through his as we walked into the center of Durham to try and minimize the amount of swaying I was doing as I walked. Rudy kept swapping between banter with Pip, then turning round to me, her long hair flying about in the gusty October air, and shouting, "We need to get you a man, Georgia! We need to find you a man!" The word man grossed me out because it had made me picture a guy far older than me. No one our age was a man yet, were they? I'll find one eventually, I shouted back, even though I knew that was bullshit and nothing in life is certain and I didn't have the time to figure things out because I might just have a brain aneurysm at any moment and then I'd be dead without having fallen in love, without having even figured out where I was and what I wanted. You don't have to find a man, Georgia, Pip slurred at me once. Wait. You don't have to find a man, Georgia, Pip slurred at me once we were inside the club, gluing for the bar. It wasn't the dank, stinky club from the other day, but a new one. It was fancy, modern, and out of place in historic Durham. It was playing cool indie pop, Pale Waves, Janelle Monáe, Chiv- Chivriches, and we were surrounded by people dancing under neon lights. I had a bit of a headache, but I wanted to try and enjoy it. I wanted to push myself. I know, I said thankfully out of earshot of Rooney, who was talking intensely to Jason about something. Jason looked moderately overwhelmed. I've already accepted that I'll never find anyone, said Pip, and it took a moment for the full implications of that to sink into my brain. What? What happened to you'll find someone eventually because everyone does? That's a straight people rule, Pip said, and that shut me up for a moment. Every time she told me, you'll find someone eventually, had she even believed it about herself? It doesn't apply to me. What? Don't say that! There's just weren't any outgoes when we were at school. You didn't have many options. Pip had kissed two girls during the time we'd known each other, one of whom repeatedly denied it ever happened, and the other told Pip she didn't actually like her that way. She just thought it was a joke between friends. Hmm. You know what? That just made me think of something from my high school years. Because I remember this one night, I went with my family to, well, mainly my dad and some family of ours. We went to a football game. It was Friday night football for the high school that I was at, and it was a home game. Because at the time we occasionally go to the away games, but we mainly went to the home games because obvious reasons. And I remember one night when I was doing a home game, when I was at a home game, this one person that I had a crush on in high school, I'd be very surprised if she's watching this and actually remembers this happening. But there was my high school crush that I had at the time, who ultimately gave me the friend zone response, which I respected a lot because I was that type of person, even back then, where, yes, I'll make my fair share of childish mistakes in high school, but I still was respectful enough to other people to respect their wishes, right? But I remember one night, um, I actually asked if I could kiss her on the cheek, which she was okay with. Consent is important, kids. I'm just saying, it really was like that. But I remember asking, I think I remember asking if I could kiss her on the cheek. She said yes, and I did. Unbeknownst to me, this person that was behind me, who I had a crush on, and ironically, I saw her as a friend myself, so it's kind of ironic how that whole situation played out. From what I heard, she saw me do this, and she was not happy about it at all. Now that was a bit of high school drama right there, but it didn't go to anywhere near that because it did happen when I was in high school. Like I said, if the person that I remember saying I had a crush on, but said that she viewed me as a friend, if she was watching this and somehow remembers this, I'll be very amazed on both fronts that she's even watching this and that she remembers. I'll be very surprised on both fronts if I'm being honest. But yeah, that very first thing reminded me of that. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Pip looked down onto the sticky bar surface. Yeah, but, like, I don't even know how to, like, date. Like, how does that even happen? I didn't know what to say to her. It wasn't like I had the answers. And even if I did, we were both too tipsy to make much sense of them. Is there something bad about me? She said suddenly, looking me right in the eyes. Am I really annoying? Am I just really annoying to everyone? Excuse me. Pip. I wrapped one arm around her shoulders. No, God, no, of course you're not. God, why'd you think that? I don't know, she grumbled. Just thought there might be a specific reason as to why I'm forever alone. You're not forever alone when I'm here. I'm your best friend. She sighed. Fine. I squeezed her, and then our drinks arrived. Do you think, since I'm your best friend, you could try not dis- despising Rudy with every fiber of your being, at least for tonight? Pip sipped her cider. I will attempt it. I can make no promises. That would have to be good enough. As soon as we had finished our drinks, Rudy started dancing. She always seemed to be on speaking terms with various people in the club, so so kept vanishing to socialize elsewhere. I felt bad for thinking it, but I actually didn't mind, because I gotta have some time to myself with my best friends. And it turned out that clubbing was slightly better when you were with people you know and love. Pip managed to get us to do our usual stupid dance moves, and after that I was smiling and laughing and almost felt happy. Rudy even joined us, and Pip managed to keep her dagger eyes to a minimum. If it weren't for the scary older students crowded around us, and the ever-present threat of Rudy trying to set me up with a guy, I would have been having a genuinely good time. Unfortunately, this only lasted a half an hour before Rudy intervened. Me, Jason, and Pip had gone to sit down on some leather sofas when Rudy appeared with a guy I didn't know. He was wearing a Ralph Lauren shirt, peach Cheetos, and boat shoes. Hey! Rudy shouted at me over the music. Georgia! Yeah? This is Miles! She pointed at the guy. I looked at him. He smiled in a way that immediately annoyed me. Hi, I said. Come dance with us! Rudy held out a hand to me. I'm tired, I said, because I was. I think you and Miles would really get along, said Rudy. It was painfully obvious what she was trying to do, and I did not want to go along with it. Maybe later, I said. Miles didn't seem too bothered, but Rudy's smile dropped a little. She stepped close to me so that Miles couldn't hear us. Just give him a try, she said. You could just kiss him and see. She's fine, said Jason's voice from one side. I hadn't realized he was listening in. I'm just trying to help. I know, said Jason. But Georgia doesn't want to. You can see it on her face. Rudy struck him with a long stare. I see, she said. Interesting. Miles had already wandered off toward some friends, so Rooney turned to Pip, who was also listening to the conversation, with a stern expression and said, Quintana, shall we dance? She sounded like she was challenging Pip to a duel, so Pip of course accepted and went to dance with Rooney, like she had a point to prove. Rooney wasn't sober enough to understand the point that Pip was trying to make. Rooney hadn't got to her, except she obviously had. I sank back into the sofa with Jason and we watched Rooney and Pip dance. It almost looked like Pip was having fun, were it not for that Mr. Darcy-like grimace on her face every time Rooney got too close to her. Lights flashed around them, and every few seconds they would be hidden from view by other dancing bodies and smiling faces. But then they'd return, and they'd be a little closer to each other, moving to the music. Rooney towered over Pip, mostly because of her giant heeled boots, but she was a few inches taller, normally anyway, and when Rooney put her arm around her, I felt suddenly worried that they'd both just fall over, and then Pip started to protest, but must have found herself ignored, realizing she'd gotten herself into the situation, and now had to deal with it. For a moment I thought Rooney was going to lean in and kiss her, but she didn't. Pip tried to glance at me and I just smiled at her, then stopped watching them. They weren't going to murder each other. Hopefully. Jason and I ate a packet of crisps Jason had procured from the bar and we talked. And it reminded me of what we'd do on the school play dress rehearsal days when we weren't needed in a scene. Pip was always a lead role, so she was busy the whole day. But Jason and I would get to sneak off and sit behind a curtain somewhere, eating snacks and watching TikTok compilations on my phone, and trying not to laugh too hard. Do you miss home? Jason asked. I thought about it. I don't know. Do you? I don't know, he said, closing his eyes and leaning his head back. I mean, I'm a bit homesick, I guess, he chuckled. I miss my dads, even though they've called me every day. And I've already watched the Scooby-Doo movie 4 times, for comfort. But school was hell. I don't miss school. Uni wasn't any better so far. For me, anyway. What? I like being here, I said. At uni? No, here. With you. Jason opened his eyes again and turned to me. He smiled. Me too. Georgia! God damn, could you imagine if I woke somebody up with that? Jesus Christ. Anyway. Georgia! Screeched Rooney, stumbling over to us from the dance floor. You found a man! No, I said. This is my friend Jason, remember? I know who he is, she said, crouching down in front of us. I know exactly what's going on here. She pointed a finger at me. You, she pointed at Jason, and him, she clapped her hands together. Big, messy feelings. So it'd be more like, here, to put it like this, it'd be more like, big, messy feelings. There you go. I just shook my head, and I felt Jason shift a tiny bit away from me while he laughed awkwardly. What was Rooney talking about? Rooney patted Jason on the shoulder. It's nice. You should just tell Georgia, though. Jason didn't say anything. I checked to see if he knew what Rooney was talking about, but his face didn't give anything away. I don't get it, I said. You're very interesting, said Rooney to Jason. And very boring at the same time because you never do anything. I'm going to the loo, said Jason, standing up with an expression on his face I always saw in him when he was drunk. Deep irritation. But he wasn't drunk. He was genuinely pissed off. He walked away from us. That was really rude, I said to Rooney. I think I was genuinely pissed off too. And are you aware that Jason is into you? The words hit me like lightning. Are you aware that Jason is into you? Jason, one of my best friends in the entire world. We'd known each other for over 4 years. We'd hung out more times than I could count. I knew his face as well as my own. We could tell each other anything. But he hadn't told me that. What? I croaked, my breath gone. Rudy laughed. Are you joking? His crush on you is so obvious it's actually painful to watch. How is this possible? I was excellent at recognizing romantic feelings. I could always tell when people were flirting with me or each other. I always knew when Pip and Jason had crushes on people. How would I miss this? He's a really lovely guy, said Rudy, her voice soft as she sat on the sofa beside me. Have you really not considered him? I started to tell Rudy that I didn't like him like that, but did I even know what romantic feelings felt like? I thought I'd had a crush on Tommy for 7 years, and that turned out to be nothing. Jason was a really lovely guy. I mean, I loved him. And suddenly the idea was swirling around my brain, and I couldn't stop myself wondering. Maybe this was like all of those American rom-coms I'd spent my whole teenage life watching. Maybe Jason and I were meant to be, like the two leads from 13 Going on 30 or Easy A. Maybe he'd been there all along. Maybe I just hadn't tapped into my romantic feelings because I felt so comfortable and safe around Jason, and I just written him off as best friend when in fact he could have been boyfriend instead. Maybe if I reached out, if I pushed myself, maybe Jason was the love of my life. What do I do? I whispered. Rudy put her hands back in her pockets. I'm not sure yet, but... She stood up, her hair falling around her shoulders like a superhero cage. I think we're going to be able to solve your little never kissed anyone situation. Well, I'm going to go, like I said before, we are going to stop there. Because the initial plan was to stop at page 103. But tomorrow night, I'll be doing something else tonight because there's only an hour here. In a few minutes, but I'm going to give me something to drink first. Well, we only got about 79 pages left to read. Because our next one is 104 to 183. So we're going to be reading that next time, and that will be the end of part 2 as we go into part 3. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and end it there. I'm going to see if tea was made, and if so, I'm going to get me some of that good tea. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, this is Forrest Walpole, signing off.